Hi, this is a task for Monkey Island 2, the Lite difficulty. For those of you who don't know, a task is a tool-assisted speedrun, which basically means that instead of being a speedrun done in real time by a human, this speedrun is done using tools like slowing down or even going frame by frame to do the exact perfect inputs required. Before I show you the task, I wanna say a couple of things. One is that the emulator that I had to use is not the emulator that we use in runs, so I wasn't able to trigger the music glitch, which would save 18 seconds, so this task is slower because of that, but it is also slower because the emulator that I ended up using is slower in general. And secondly, the tools that I used for some reason soft locked when I reached a certain point of the game, so I had to do the task in two parts and edit them together. And before I forget, if you wanna see the task without my commentary, I left a link in the description. Having said that, please enjoy the task. Okay, so the beginning is as usual. We walk to the right because for some reason the cutscene that triggers leave us in a better position to then walk to the left. We go to Wally, we pick up the piece of paper, the usual stuff. By the way, if you're not familiar with this game, it's a point and click game. You click anywhere to basically walk there. You can do certain actions like picking up an object like we see before we picked up a piece of paper. We are now gonna talk to the barkeeper. I didn't set up the RNG to have the best barkeeper possible because there are certain random elements in the game that were kind of a pain to manipulate, so this task is not perfect because of that. And yeah, we talk to him, we use the piece of paper with the wall, which has a small hitbox, so it's not the easiest thing to do, but this is task, so we can totally do it. And yeah, there is not much to say about this first part, so I guess we will just enjoy it. There are a couple of optimizations that we also do in runs, like we saw Guybrush walking into this room. There is a specific pixel in which you can click to make him walk in a perfect diagonal. And yeah, let's talk a little bit about Lite. So this is the Lite difficulty. It is twice as fast as the normal difficulty. It's kind of a joke. It's kind of a joke difficulty of the game because it was basically done to mock reviewers. So there are a lot less puzzles. So the first puzzle will be to grab certain items of Largo to be able to make a voodoo doll of him, and we are almost ready to do it. Like, we now have everything that we need. We just need to go to the voodoo lady. So why did I choose Lite? Well, first of all, it's shorter, so it's faster to, like, it's easier to make a task of it. But also because there is a specific glitch, and I'm gonna talk about it a little bit more after we exit this island. So yeah, now we're going to the voodoo lady. This dialogue, and usually dialogues in general in this game are a bit tricky, but this dialogue in particular, it's not really easy to do because you need to skip text, skip cutscenes and so on, and every input you do kinda take precedence over the previous inputs, so you cannot just hold everything down. So yeah, you need to have some good timings. Also, for those of you who are familiar with the speedrun, you probably noticed that we didn't get the scroll skip. There is a way to make so that when Guybrush walks out of the dialogue with the voodoo lady, the screen starts scrolling faster, and so we are able to gain control of Guybrush faster. It is not possible with this emulator, it seems, so that's a shame, but whatever. Okay, so now we are picking up nails and hammer. We will need them later, and we are almost done with this first chapter. Take a look at how fast the kill on Largo is. Like, usually you cannot go too fast in real time because you might not click exactly where you want, or some weird stuff. I'm not really sure, but it never works if you go too fast, but task goes so fast with it. It's amazing. Okay, one last optimization with this walk was found by the wolves, and I tried a couple of different variations with the timing and stuff, and this seemed to be the faster walk to go to the peninsula. And yeah, now during this part it's really long, Guybrush walking to Dread, so let me explain just one thing. Whenever you go to a new island, there are at least two cutscenes that play. One we skip, which is the one of Dread going around in circles, basically. And there is one that you might not notice at first, where a red bar appears when, and it is approaching the island. It's basically this one, this cutscene, is what I'm talking about. And that cutscene is actually pretty important for the next glitch. So we are now going to buy a map. Going to a new island will trigger the cutscene that I was talking about, but also another cutscene, which is the one of Largo, of LeChuck being angry at us because we got a map piece. And now this glitch, which looks hilarious. So let me explain it a little bit. So whenever all of these cutscenes play at once, when you skip them, during the cutscene of approaching the island, you get control of your cursor back. And this is incredible because this allows us to basically click on certain parts of the island and instantly warp there. Now the problem is, after the cutscene ends, because the cutscene is still going in the background, we will get warped back to the place where we were supposed to be. So, and this is a task-only trick, if we use the book, we look at the book to make some text appear on screen, we can stall the cutscene, we can stop it momentarily, and so we have enough time to basically go to the map piece and pick it up before we get warped to the prison, basically. And then we can do the escape of the prison, winning actually the invitation to the party, and we're done. We don't need to do anything else in Fat Island. We don't need to even walk on Fat Island. That's amazing. Okay, the rest. Well, okay, we went through Fat Island, we got the invitation, we went to Booty, and now we got the dress. We did an interesting strategy with Stan, which is a buffering of an action, because when you close the coffin on him, he gives you an Enki, and that scrolls the inventory. So you would need to scroll it back up to be able to use hammer and nails to close the coffin definitively. But you can like select use nails or use hammer before that happens, and so when he gives you the invitation, when he gives you the Enki, you can click on the coffin and the action will work as intended. The rest is like usual, like the groveling with the lane was really fast, of course, because I knew exactly what I needed to select, and there's not much else to say. Now, when going to Scab, I'm gonna trigger the glitch again, and it's completely useless. Like, it would be nice to be able to trigger that glitch and go to the cemetery, but it is impossible. You don't have time to do that. So I just trigger it for the sake of it. It doesn't lose any time, because that time you would still need to wait for the cutscene to end. So I just did it. Why not? And we are almost done with chapter 2. This is our last map piece. Now we just need to go to Wadley and then to the Voodoo Lady. I'll take a moment to say that I didn't try to find many optimizations with walking and stuff. Like, I basically just went with the notions that I knew given the normal speedrun. So there might be some task-only paths you can take with Guybrush. I'm not sure about it. It would have taken me too long to try and find all of those optimizations. So again, you would be able to get the scroll skip here using the emulator that we normally use in speedruns, but with this emulator it is not possible, sadly, so that's a second loss. So in total this task loses at least 20 seconds 18 for the music glitch, 2 for scroll skips, and then it loses some amount of time that I'm not sure about because this emulator is slower in general. Like every few frames it loses a little bit of time. But this is still incredibly fast. Like if you take a look at the time on the timeline, you would see that this task is really fast. As it should be. Okay, and this is where the music glitch really doesn't help us because we cannot get it. Because all of these cutscenes that we're gonna see, especially the next part of a black screen like this part, will be way faster. This is also the part that I had to edit because my tasking tools soft locked here. So that was fun. Okay, Dinky Island. Dinky Island is amazing, especially because I get the walk. Like here we get the crackers and I get the walk and giving the cracker to the parrot, so we don't like lose time. That's pretty amazing. It is basically not possible to do it RTA, like in real time. It is almost possible, but you need to be a madman to be able to do it and not lose any time at all. Now here I get something that is quite interesting and saves like 6 frames. So I can press P at a specific frame. I think it's frame perfect from my testings. And basically I can prepare a second action, like to pick up the TNT. It's interesting. Here I petted the dolphin. I don't know, I had nothing to do while walking. Also here I wanted to get Guybrush like facing left before the parrot arrives, but I couldn't do it, like there was no way. What I did was the fastest thing that I could basically achieve. And now we get to LeChuck. LeChuck, I manipulated the warps, so I got LeChuck to warp me wherever I wanted to. But I couldn't exactly manipulate when he shows up. And that's a bit of a problem. I wanted to try to do some fancy stuff, and I did try a couple of different routes, but at the end of it, the normal route that you usually would see in a speedrun is what I went with. There is a thing to be said about manipulating LeChuck, which wouldn't be useful for speedruns, but I was able to slightly manipulate him not showing up. Because if you know that he will show up, you can kind of walk in a door, and while you are transitioning between one room and the next, he cannot show up, and like the RNG values then upgrades, and so he cannot show up anymore. So basically, if he was scheduled to show up exactly when you are in between rooms, he cannot show up. Similarly, and this is way easier, in certain rooms there is only one door, and so if you're really close to that door, LeChuck cannot spawn, because LeChuck cannot spawn if you're too close. Like basically, he would need to spawn inside of you, which the game doesn't want to do. Also here I waited a little bit, and this is my way of manipulating the RNG. So I get the first warp in the infirmary. Sadly, I wasn't able to get LeChuck to show up here, because that would have been amazing. If LeChuck were to show up here, we can then warp instantly to the next room. And here, this is what I was talking about. I waited a little bit inside of the door, because I knew I could avoid a LeChuck spawn that way. Because otherwise LeChuck would have spawned, and that would be pretty bad for the run. I also tried a couple of different things to do here, like maybe filling the balloon and the gloves with helium after LeChuck shows up, but LeChuck doesn't show up fast enough to make that viable. Here I do something interesting, and this is a mistake that I made. I should have picked up an item that I didn't pick up before, so I lost 6 frames because I need to scroll the inventory twice here instead of only once. But the interesting thing that I do is that unlike in normal speedruns, I don't put the underwear in the bag here. And that's because that would have lost me a little bit of time, but I can do it here. and I put the hanky and the underwear in the bag, which maybe it's not that useful because I still need to wait for the jack to show up, so it's not really useful, but I mean, it is possible, so that's a thing. And here I can buffer use hypodermic syringe while I'm making the doll, which is pretty nice. Again, 6 frames saved because of that. Actually, 12 frames saved because of that. Because, like, selecting a verb, clicking on an object, and clicking on another object, each of them is processed on a different 6 frame window. So, because I already did use and syringe, that means that I saved 12 frames, basically. And this is basically the end. This is the last dialogue. Again, the music glitch is losing us a little bit of time, 5 seconds here, because the dog would have shown up way faster. And the end. And this is where the task ends. I let the game run for a little more, but at Yes Mom is exactly where it ends. And by my estimations, I have yet to time it perfectly. This task should be decently fast, like 15 minutes, sorry, around 15 minutes mark. So thank you everyone for watching this. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will try to make more videos in 2021, I will definitely do more. I do have some ideas in mind. But yeah, this is it for me for 2020, and yeah, I hope to see you next time.